What's up, guys? It's Saiyan here, coming at you with another deck profile. And for the eagle-eyed ones, you may have noticed that actually behind me, there normally sits this box of a good old classic Pokemon theme deck. We're looking at Gym Challenge today and the Koga theme deck. So let's jump right into this bad boy. So I bought this theme deck quite some time ago, actually. Probably a year and a half ago, maybe longer than that. My friend and I, we play obviously a lot of Pokemon normally when we don't have a worldwide pandemic going on. And one of the easiest ways for you guys out there to start playing old school Pokemon is possibly going after a theme deck. It doesn't have to be anything specific, but you get a couple of trainers. You certainly get a lot of energies, which even energies tend to run for like £1, £1.50 nowadays on the market. So I mean, it's probably a good bang for your buck. But Koga is a really cool trainer. I actually did like the episode back in the days when they got lost in the pagoda, and they're fighting. Well, Koga's sister first, and then Koga. So anyway, the theme decks, as usual, they contain basically a little rule book that we are so accustomed to, and I think the Pokemon one's always been very beautiful. We got the counters, damage counters, and that's about it. Of course, the deck, the most important part of it. So let's have and also coin. Yeah, this one had an Alakazam coin in it actually, which is in my coin collection because I do have one. Of course I do. So yeah, the deck really is what's important here. Now the Koga deck is actually pretty cool, and there is definitely a lot where you can take this deck if you go out and get some additional Koga Pokemon and a couple of trainers for this deck. So let's start with the Pokemon. We have 3 Koga's Grimer that we get access to from the theme deck. Now, Koga's Grimer is actually not a bad one. One thing the deck does really well is it covers, because we got 3 different weaknesses. We got Psychic, we got Electric or Lightning, and we also have Fire Resistance, or Weakness even, sorry. So, you can mix and match as to basically what kind of deck you go up against, and you're not necessarily going to be sucker punched out because all your deck is weak to Psychic. Let's say you go up against a Sabrina deck and it's just, flush it down the loo kind of thing. Sludge Grip is an alright attack. If your opponent has any bench Pokemon, flip a coin. If heads, choose one of your opponent's bench Pokemon, switch it with the defending Pokemon, and then you poison that newly pulled out Pokemon. So Koga's Grimer is basically giving you a potential effect to get a continuous stream of Gust of Wind, and not just Gust of Wind, but also poisoning. Now, if you do, of course, Steam Deck versus Steam Deck, poisoning can be a very powerful tool for many of these decks. And then you can go up to Sludge Toss, which is a 2 energy 20 attack. It's alright, a 50 HP starter. It's actually alright for a theme deck. We also get access to 3 Koga's Ekans. It's another one of those flip a coin effects, but that's something that you gotta get used to if you're playing with theme decks in the Pokemon. It is a 1 energy attack though, and again for a 50 HP Pokemon, that's not too bad to start with. So immediately already looking at 6 of our basics, they are able to attack turn 1, which is generally a good starting point for these pre-constructed decks here. So Koga's Ekans, fast acting poison, flip a coin. If both are heads, the defending Pokemon is now confused and poisoned, but you are guaranteed to deal 10 damage either way. Confusion and poison together is just devastating. They get that 10 damage each turn, and they may also are unable to retreat. And if they try and attack, they might hit themselves for 20 more damage. So this can actually end games really quick if you get that lucky coin flip. And we also get 3 Koga's PG, which again has a 1 energy attack. Amazing stuff. And here's where we get introduced to a different weakness. We now have a lightning weakness. And all the guys have a retreat cost of 1, which is, in a deck where you get like 28 energies is not really a massive problem. So we can pack for 1 energy, or we can build up to a sand attack, 3 energies, a guaranteed 20 damage. If the defending Pokemon tries to attack during your opponent's next turn, your opponent must basically flip a coin. If it is tails, the attack does nothing. So it's a really powerful 3 energy attack. If we would get some DCs into the deck, I think Sand Attack could definitely be an actually fairly strong attack to rely on. Particularly again in this theme deck atmosphere, but we do not have DCs in this deck, but we do have a fighting resistance though, which can be very useful. This is where we get into the basically our secondary attackers. We have 4 Koga's Koffing, and we can evolve into 2 Koga's Weezing. Now 3 of the 4 Koga's Koffings are the same, and again we get both of these guys have 1 energy attack, which again is really cool for this little format here. We got 3 copies of the 40 HP and 1 copy of the 50 HP. If you look at the 40 HP, Smelly Gas, 1 attack, 10 guaranteed damage. Flip a coin. If heads, this attack does 10 damage to each benched Pokemon. That includes your own as well. But it isn't necessarily a problem because if we can, of course, deal out all this spread damage, that usually tends to be to our benefit rather than our opponents. The 50 HP one gets Smoke Screen. The defending Pokemon tries to attack during your opponent's next turn. Flip a coin. If tails, this attack does nothing. Exactly the same as Sand Attack, but you get it off for 1 swing. That's exactly what the Fossil Magmar does. One of the 2 attacks on the Fossil Magmar. But of course, that Magmar has 70 HP. I still think this is probably the better. So I really can't see why they included 2/2, but anyway, it's not the end of the world really. And we also get Obscuring Gas, 2 energy attack, flip a coin if heads, shuffle Koga, Koffing, and all cards attached to it back into your deck. So it's like a nice little disappearing act, particularly good if you've taken 20-30 damage, maybe even 40, and you're just barely surviving. Try and pull off an Obscuring Gas. The shuffle back effect is obviously 50-50, but you do still get 30 damage off of 2 energies, which is really powerful. And then we can go and evolve into Koga's Weezing. That's why I said that basically the Koffing Weezing combo is our secondary attacker. We're going to get to our primary attacker in a minute. We got Spontaneous Explosion for 2 green energies. Flip a coin if heads. This attack does 10 damage plus 30 more damage. And Koga's Weezing does 30 damage to itself. If tails, this attack does 10 damage. I think it's a really cool attack. You can get some really high output energy in there. And even if you KO Koga's Weezing, ultimately, if you then with this attack manage to KO your opponent's Pokemon, it's still a good move ultimately. And it's a 70 HP, which is alright. But I think Toxic Cloud specifically is very easy to achieve. If you go up to 2 energies on Koga's Koffing, you don't shuffle Koffing back in, then next turn you should be able to Toxic Cloud. Flip a coin if heads, the defending Pokemon is now poison, and it now takes 20 poison damage rather than the usual 10. That is really powerful. The 20 damage for 3 energy is a bit lackluster, obviously, but if you do get that heads, and you deal 20 poison damage at the end of each turn, that is massive. That is going to lead to a KO very, very quickly. So our secondary attacker is Koffings. Ideally, you don't necessarily want to start with a Koffing unless you have to. You kind of want to build up the Koffing on your bench. Go into the Weezings if you can, because we do have a lot of base prime attackers for early game. But our main attacker is going to be a 4-2-1 build of Koga's Weezing, Kakuna, and Beedrill. And Beedrill is really the all-star of this deck, but let's go through these guys one by one. Koga's Weedle, just like all the other basic Pokemon, has a 1 energy attack. I cannot stress how good that is for a theme deck. And then for 2 energies, Sharp Stinger, flip a coin if has a defending Pokemon is now poison. If tails, the defending Pokemon is now paralyzed. You cannot lose on that Sharp Stinger. Super good, and you get that guaranteed 10 damage, which is crazy. I mean, they could have just literally said, well, it's either a paralyze or a poison. You don't get the 10 damage, but you do get a 10 damage, and that makes that Weedle actually pretty good. The only letdown is the 40 HP, but it is a Weedle, guys. So, you know, and it's got the fire weakness, so we can go away. You know, if we can go away from that threat of necessarily facing Psychic and not being able to react to that situation. Our two Weedles have two Kakunas to evolve into. Now, Kakuna is amazing because you can ramp into this Beedrill really, really quick. Kakuna has the Pokemon Power Emerge. Once during your turn, before you attack, you may flip a coin. If heads, search your deck for an evolution card named Koga's Beedrill and put it on top of Koga's Kakuna. So, you know, this counts as evolving. This counts as evolving Koga's Kakuna, and you shuffle your deck, and you obviously can't use it if you're affected by a special condition. Although in this game, poisoning wouldn't actually stop Pokemon powers from working, so bear it in mind if you're playing old school Pokemon shenanigans. If you don't want to necessarily do that, then you obviously have access to an attack, another 1 energy attack, Toxic Secretion. And I would highly recommend not necessarily going into Koga's Kakuna unless you actually do have 2 energies on Kakuna, because then obviously you won't even have access to an attack. So make sure that you get 2 energies before you go into Beedrill, so you can pull off that Nerve Poison or Hyper Needle. But back to Toxic Secretion, flip a coins. If heads, the defending Pokemon is now poisoned, and the same way as the same way as what we saw with it was our Weezing. That poison deals 20 damage rather than 10. So we got this really nice little curve. As long as we can get into any one of our 2 stage 1, we have this potential, this 50-50 excess to deal massive poison damage to our opponent. 20 rather than 10. It's basically what Koga wants to do, is this hyper effective poison strategy to pull off. And then Koga's Beedrill, 2 energy, Nerve Poison. Flip a coin if has defending Pokemon is now paralyzed and poisoned. Again, that's absolutely brilliant. It basically does what Koga's Weedle does with the Sharp Stinger, but a lot better. We get 20 base damage and a double effect as well. So, you know, we paralyze them, they can't attack next turn, they can't retreat unless they got Switch, and they also take 10 damage poison on the after the 20 that they take. So this basically is a 30 damage attack for 2 energy, which also leaves our opponent paralyzed for the next turn. And of course, the poison will carry on putting another 10 on. So if we pull this off next turn, I mean, with this basic Koga's Beedrill comes down, it's basically in many cases a 2-turn KO. And we also have Hyper Needle. Flip a coins. If tails, this attack does nothing. We don't like that. But it is a 3 energy attack for 70 damage, which is crazy. So either way, whether we get heads or tails, you can't use this attack again as long as Koga's Beedrill stays in play. Even if Koga's Beedrill is on the bench, you won't be able to use it again. However, we do have a way around this. But even just pulling off, that 3 energy 70 attack, if you do get the heads and it does deal 70, that is again basically you're not really going to find many Pokemon in these Steam decks that will be able to withstand that. It is a risky one. You can't use it again, so you might have just wasted a turn. But if you do pull it off, it's massive. And moving on to the trainers and basically how we can counteract this potential issue is with the use of Fuchsia City Gym or Fuchsia. So once per turn, once during each player's turn before they attack, that player may flip a coin. If hands, that player may shuffle one of his or her Pokemon in play with Koga in his name, and any cards attached to it back into his or her deck. So if you really wanna, you can shuffle back the Beedrill, the Kakuna, the Weedle, the whole shebang, and then hopefully maybe be able to draw into him. But again, remember that Kakuna can actually power out that Beedrill fairly quickly. What also Kakuna allows us to do is just to search our deck and check out what we have in our prize cards. Because if Beedrill is in our prize cards, then obviously we won't be able to pull the whole thing off. Then we have to rely on Toxic Secretion and or Koga's Weezing to basically bring it home. But we do have the Fuchsia Gem, which is, you know, sometimes just good as a counter gem, but it can be quite useful for, you know, saving our Pokemon, not allowing our opponent to get access to their prize cards. That can be pretty big. And I also really like the Koga Trainer card as well. Reason being is that all our Pokemon in this deck has Koga in its name. So there's no Pokemon power that your opponent could potentially have that would you know, during your turn change your Pokemon around, or even if they, you know, even if they pull off like an attack that brings out one of your bench Pokemon, doesn't matter because you will always have a Koga named Pokemon as your active. If an attack from a Pokemon with Koga in its name does damage to a defending Pokemon this turn, that Pokemon is then poisoned. So we just have a straight up access to poisoning our opponent's Pokemon. That's pretty powerful for those Pokemon who don't necessarily, you know, poison on their 1 energy attack. Because we do have a lot of guys that will, of course, poison. Maybe with a flip of a coin, this is a guaranteed poison, but it works for all of our guys, and it can be really, really good early game. And it can also just as be just as good if we know that our opponent has maybe used up their switches. We're also blessed with 1 energy removal. I really don't know why, because there's only 1 of it. So, you know, if I look at Blackout, for example, you get 4 energy removals, you get 1 super energy removal. That's a blast of a deck to play as well, really powerful. One of the most powerful theme decks. But we do get 1 energy removal. You also get 1 plus power, just deal extra 10 damage. Can be a good finisher, actually, particularly with those guys, you know, that maybe get in an early damage with Koga, then move on to a plus power, just finish off Pokemon real quick. We also get a full heal. Full heal, again, it's not the greatest card, but, you know, it is what it is. I would much rather have liked to see a switch in this slot. It would have been a lot more useful, but we get what we get. We do get to Gust of Window, which does really well. We can bring out those enemy Pokemon that may have already taken some poison damage, taking some of a more chunky hit from one of our guys, and again just finish them off. So again, having access to Gust of Wind is really cool. And just to counteract that Weezing bench damage, we actually get 3 potions in the deck, which again is actually quite nice. Quite a lot of theme decks get maybe 1 or 2 potion-like trainers. And we actually get a quite nice number of trainers as well. We get 10 trainers in the deck, which might not seem a lot, but actually, again, for a theme deck, that's pretty healthy. And the rest is energies, guys. We got 28 energies in this deck. So, you know, if you guys want to go and get like nearly 30 grass energies, well, you know, go ahead. Get one of these Koga starters. And you don't have to worry about grass energies for the rest of your old school Pokemon playing career. So this is it for today, guys. I hope you've enjoyed this little review of the Koga theme deck, old school Pokemon. It is an absolute blast to play these theme decks. Unfortunately, because these decks are, you know, nearly 20, if not older, years old, 20 years old at least, yeah, they can be quite costly. Don't be threatened to buy used ones, because you can get a good little bargain with those, as long as you make sure that it has every single part in it. And until next time, guys, Bustin signing out. Peace.